Hello, in this video I'm going to explain to you about my embedded system project. So this is the connection for the IR proximity sensor. The blue wire connects to the ground. The brown wire connects to the plus 5 volt, while the black wire connects to the output. Okay, now let's move on into the schematic of this project. Let's start with the sensors first. From the left, you can see the MC-38 magnetic door switch, and the two sensors on the bottom are the E18-DATNK IR proximity sensors. All of these three sensors sends digital data into the ESP32 right here. So for the magnetic door switch, it sends into the GPIO1 pin, while for the IR proximity sensors, both sends data to GPIO36 and 39 respectively. Okay, let's move on into the programming of this system. The first two lines are to include the libraries for the blink and Wi-Fi. The next three lines are to define the pins that are being used by each sensor. Both IR proximity sensor uses GPIO 36 and 39, while the magnetic sensor uses GPIO 1. Below that is the int variable to store the amount of people in an area. There's also the timer for each IR sensor to measure the time taken with delta time. Now let's move on into the first function. It is the void result. It prints the amount of people in a room and to also stream the data into the blink. Next up is the setup function. It uses blink to connect to the Wi-Fi, and it uses an authentication code in the beginning. And the next three lines shows that all of the pin mode are inputs. Now, in the loop function, the first line is used to run the blink. The next lines are to initialize the digital inputs for each of these sensors. Next up is the if statement. It is when the sensor A is 0 or low. When the sensor detects an object, the state becomes 0 or low. The time when the sensor detects an object, it records the time by using millis. The time is then subtracted for each of the sensors. When sensor A is detected first, it means that the outer sensor detects an object first. Thus, the count of people are incremented, since a people enters an area or a room. Below that is the if statement on the status of the door. The count is then passed into the result function, and the sensed sensor is assigned to the in sensor. Now, below that is the algorithm that is quite similar, but it is when the sensor B detected a person first. It will then decrement the amount of people since a person leaves the area. And below that is the if statements on the status of the door. As you can see, I've run the code, and the total amount of person inside the room is now 0. So here is the IR proximity sensor, and let's demonstrate if a person enters a room. So like this. So, and as you can see, it shows that the door is opened and the person counter rises to 1. And now let's see if another person comes into the room. And as you can see, the counter counts up into 2. Now let's see if another person enters the room. And yeah, the counter also increases to 3. And now, what if a person leaves the room? And as you can see, the counter also decreases into 2. Now what if another person leaves? And as you can see, the counter also decreases into 1, and etc. And what if we close the door? So now let's demonstrate if the door is closed. So the switch is now in 0 state, and when I give a input to the sensor, it stays the same. It does not count when the door is closed. Okay, so this is the system for the door monitoring project, and as you can see right here, this is the ESP32 that is powered by 5-volt DC supply, and on this side of this door, there's one IR proximity sensor, and on the other side of this door, as you can see, is another IR proximity sensor, and there's also the magnetic door sensor. So in order to monitor the amount of people in this house, I use an IoT platform called Blink, and as you can see right here, so currently there are 3 persons inside this house. And now what if we leave the house? So, and as you can see right here, it is updated real time, and the number of person drops to 2. And what if I enter the room again? And now the number of person counts up to 3. The figure on the left is the home in the Blink application menu. It shows the amount of person, the door status, and the chart. And on the right is the chart in live view of the amount of person flowing in and flowing out. As you can see from the image on the right, the number of people starts from 3, drops to 2, goes back into 3, and increases to 4. While on the left side, it shows a decimal number. It is due to the data in the single bar consisting of the flow of person in a certain period of time. If in that period people enter and leave many times, the average will be a decimal number. The sixth figure shows the flow of people in or out the house. The red graph shown is the status of the door, which from figure 3.1 until 3.5 shows that the door is opened. At the end of the figure 3.5, it shows that the door is closed since it is already at night. And in figure 3.6, it shows that when the door is closed, no people can come in or out.